Welcome to the Movement Podcast, where we discuss the top tips and tricks for real estate investors and entrepreneurs from across the nation. Today we have my wife, the one and only Lisa Lovro. How are you doing today? Beautiful. Good. Glad to have you here. I know we have a lot of people that ask us, I'd say just about every week it comes up in conversation, right? But people want to know, how do you work together and what does that look like behind the scenes?
Yeah.
So we figure we just hang out, sit down and kind of open up the playbook and give you guys a glimpse of the husband-wife duo and how we thrive together in real estate.
Right.
So with that being said, let's just talk about that dynamic. What does it look like with you being real estate agent where the focus really is primarily serving the retail public, where on the investment side, there's more of a focus on helping distressed homeowners in difficult situations.
Right.
So let's talk about that dynamic, what that looks like.
Right. So they both start with relationships. Building relationships is key, trying to get in the door for anyone. And I feel like both of us do very well with connecting with people. That is both of our strengths. We're both people persons. Not sure if that's correct English,
People.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really the foundation of both of them. And in a nutshell, how you're going to be great at it. But yeah, it does look a little different on both of our ends as we are in different ends of the spectrum, so to speak. But yeah, I would say relationship building is, the key to both of them for sure. And being a husband and wife team, and I use that loosely because that's not how we present ourselves as a team. We just work together behind the scenes of each other's business.
Right.
That's kind of what I mean. Anyhow, and with that, that's where it does work too. Like we also need to make sure that, we're giving ourselves, our business, our marriage, and our clients the same love and attention.
That's good.
And so, yeah.
I like that. So I think a big part of growing a team, growing a business, but still being able to be there and sustain as a family, as a husband, as a wife,
Right.
as a parent. No matter what industry you might be in, you probably wear many hats, right? When it comes down to it. And I feel like one of the more difficult things for young adults to step into is to learn how to balance all of those tasks. And like you said, be able to give all the people that are counting on you the attention that they really need.
For sure.
Right. And so a big challenge for us working together as husband and wife, right? A lot of people are like, how do you do it? I'd be butting heads every day. Both of us are firstborns. So we both have a bit of that leadership mentality, right? Which in certain times and seasons does end up clashing.
Yeah.
But learning to play off of one another's strengths and weaknesses and understanding those roles is super, super key, right? What in your perspective, what do those roles look like and how do we make those work in everyday life, family, and business?
So as the wife and the mom, I would say that on my end, it's more of a, how am I respecting you today? This is your business. This is, your ideas, your whatever the case may be for that given situation. And my first question is, how am I going to give him advice or direct him in this way or answer his question respectfully, whether it's agreeing or disagreeing, and making sure it's constantly honoring your culture and who you are as a person and what you're trying to portray. And then as a mom, for instance, we're in day one with my brokerage. And every week we've had to check in and say how many hours we've worked productively, how many, whatever. It's just keeping up, keeping track, accountability type of thing. And we're in a season where a lot of my time is devoted to whatever's going on. there is no work-life balance. Whatever season we're in, depending on whatever is more important, is what's getting the most attention. For instance, it is the children. So my work hour production is down a little bit more right now. But it doesn't mean that I haven't set aside time. I think the most important thing is time blocking. I'm not great at it. I'm getting better at it, and I'm working more towards it. But priorities first, no matter what season it is. And, you know, the season coming up is going to be more work focused. Not that my children and our family is going to take the back burner. It just means that work's going to pick up, and that's going to have to be where my focus is going to be primarily. Of course, you know, given circumstances and whatnot.
That's good. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, we do have a newborn baby. Well, she'll be a year.
She's not
in
a
about
newborn.
a month. What would you call her? She's not quite an infant. We have a baby girl.
She's almost
at home.
a toddler.
We have an almost toddler at home. And then we have three older kids, 2 of which are in competitive cheer, 1 who is playing football. So it's a lot of hats, right? And a lot of people that need your attention and need to be taken to different places, and making that work. It's a challenge, right? And if we were not both self-employed, I don't know how it would be humanly possible.
Yeah, my hat's off to W-2 families, because it is so hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
for
it's
sure.
a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
But it works, right? We make it work. And I like how you pointed out, you know, different seasons call for different commitments.
Right.
And recognizing the needs within that season and the lifetime of that need is important, right? Now we're coming up into the summer season in one of the busiest, craziest real estate markets ever in history, right? And recognizing that, like you talked about it, it's coming. Mm-hmm. And getting into that action, being able to give our full attention to that and serve people to the best of our abilities while the getting's good, right? Because we're in 2021, depending when you're watching this, right? But we're talking about market predictions and the possibility of a market downturn or a market crash towards the 3rd, possibly 4th quarter of this year, right? No one really knows. Right. But the point of that is, as a real estate individual, professional, you need to make sure that you're hunkering down and you're preparing for the season to come.
For sure.
Right? Because once the market turns, at least on the retail side, that well might dry up.
For sure.
Right? And you got to have some cash reserves. You got to have some investments so that you can sustain through that season.
For sure.
Luckily, in wholesale real estate, our business should thrive, right? Typically in a market downturn, you see more opportunities where you can step in and help distressed homeowners. So it's one of those models where it works, right? We have both sites on different sides of the sector when it comes to real estate. So a big goal of ours also is to get Lisa a little bit more involved on the back end systems with us, right? Because she's much more organized. She understands spreadsheets, Excel, all that type of stuff. So putting her in a role where she can really craft out the dispositions and transaction coordinator part of the business is a huge gap that we currently have, and we're in the process of trying to roll that out. So let's talk about playing off of those skill sets and the value that you bring to our side of the business on the back end.
For sure. So going back just a little bit, yes, I agree on the downturn of the market. It's going to happen. We're in an insanely crazy market season, and it's only going to get crazier as spring and summer are approaching. What comes up is going to come down. Now, it doesn't mean that mine's going to stop. It probably does mean it's going to slow down, but it just means that I keep doing what I'm doing and I'm adding value to those that need it. People will always need a place to live.
Yes, I like that.
Circumstances are always going to happen. Divorce, marriage, having children moving out. Life changes are not going to stop just because the market took a turn. So do I think my business is in jeopardy? No. Do I think that my business might slow down a little bit? Absolutely. But that's my little take on the market. Now, how, you're exactly right. We're a lot alike in leadership position, but we're also very different, as in, I like to plan things. I like to know what's coming. You're fly by the seat of your pants. And I'm like, wait, what? So while he's off videoing things in left field, I'm over here making sure that business is staying running, and flips are, on time or wherever we're needing to be due to our timeline. What that looks like as far as he's asked me to start being the event planner, and I think that fits me perfectly because I do like to be organized. I do like planning, and I think it's fun, and he needs help. Yes. So here I am. So that's how I work a little bit more on your end. I also have more patience and time with training up people, such as a transaction coordinator that we have coming in. I don't necessarily enjoy those roles, but I can do them, and I can train someone how to do them. So that's about what it looks like on my end.
And that's a big part too, is being able to have different perspectives inside of your business that might see your blind spots, right? Like, I'm so forward focused, right? My head's always in the cloud. I really am a true visionary, right? So I'm projecting 2 years, 5 years, where are we going to be 10 years from now, creating the systems and the processes and trying to build key people on the team. But when it comes to equipping every single one of these seats and then continually managing them throughout the day and week process, that type of stuff gets me in the weeds, right? Plus, it makes me feel dead inside.
Yeah.
I'm a true creative at heart. I love creating systems. I love creating processes, and I love building teams and building up people. But when it comes to managing a system that's already been put in place, those things, like, it strangles me, right? It chokes out that creative side where I can be projecting forward, right? Trying to put new things together. We always have this running joke, it's like, while my wife's back there in the trenches manning the day-to-day tasks, here I am, with my phone and my camera shooting all this content and videos and stuff. And I mean, it really is kind of funny. But part of it's true. But everything that I do with that has a place and a purpose.
No, for sure. I think in a nutshell, in layman's terms, what it is you're just simply not a detail person. It drives you crazy about those small little details of everyday life or business, and that's where I come into play, because I don't mind doing them, because I know they're necessary to keep everything in a running order, and to make sure that we all stay sane and healthy and safe.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So here's a funny little spin that we'll throw in here, because I'm sure people are asking, right? But who wears the pants in the relationship?
I think it depends on the day. or I should say, Ben's idea. Sometimes, very rare, I do have to pull him back into reality and be like, hold up, buddy. But every now and then he's got some really great ideas and stuff, and I just help him run with it and bring it into fruition, if you will, with the task managing and details of it. But I think that's kind of hard, because I think I would say, it is kind of true. It depends on the day. However, in our marriage, obviously, what is going to honor you, and how am I going to make sure that, I don't know how to say this without making it sound like I'm like putting myself to the side, but it's not, like, how am I honoring and respecting you in our businesses, and how am I carrying that into the house? I don't ever want to come in where you feel like I'm stepping on your toes or running over your ideas or whatever, just because I may or may not agree. Learning to agree to disagree has definitely been a challenge for both of us sometimes, especially in the beginning. We both came in like bulls. Like, when we were like, we're both going to be self-employed, we both like had this whole like dream world that it was going to be. And like you had your idea and I had my idea. Nobody communicated those ideas. And it was a disaster. I think we like softly despised each other.
We should have thrown blows.
For a couple of months trying to get into it because I just was not like you. This is another thing that your strength and I'm, you know, I'm not in this area, and it's staying on task for the most part, and staying dedicated to your routine. Like me, I'm like, oh, it's 5 a.m. and I'm supposed to be doing this, but this coffee is so nice and I'm just going to sit here and listen to the birds chirp. Where you're like, 5 a.m. I got to do my workout. This. That's how you are. Where I'm like, not so much a morning person, but that's where your strengths come in and play on my weaknesses, because it keeps me on task, because I'm being held accountable. Whether you're saying it out loud, your actions are showing me. And it's like, dang, Lisa, you better get out of this bed before he comes back from the gym, or he's going to be like, what'd you do?
Yeah.
You know, so that's where your strength and stuff come into play. Because I feel like we've talked a lot about my strengths and your weaknesses, but trust me, I have plenty myself where yours keep me held accountable. Like your drill sergeant ways with work keeps me in line and making sure that I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis. Whereas sometimes I may not like it, I still have to do it.
Yeah, that's good. And a big part of that equation too is understanding each other's personalities, right? But also understanding the role that they need us to be at times, right? Because obviously I am somewhat of a driver, right? I'm like,
not somewhat.
Go.
Right. Because
we need to reach certain goal in projection for our greater vision, right? If those personalities were not in place, then, you know, all these different tasks and disciplines get pushed to the back burner and you accomplish nothing.
For
right?
sure.
And then you go broke and you lose your house.
Right.
I mean, theoretically, right?
Right.
But what I've had to learn too in this season of growth for both of us is that she doesn't always need me to be a coach, right? Like I'm so big on motivation and growth. And I think that I have the best ideas and strategies on how to fix certain things, but realizing that she doesn't need a coach, she needs a cheerleader, right? So that's been the biggest hurdle in my progression, being the man and the husband that I am called to be, is to learn how to take off that hat, right, of being husband, provider, coach, right? And just saying, you know what, she just needs a cheerleader right now. How can I support her and love her through it instead of trying to fix the problem or the situation? Maybe I just need to listen. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because he definitely has drill sergeant disciplinary leadership mentality, and he is a driver, not somewhat. He is 100% a driver, and he's so goal oriented and such a visionary that sometimes I have to slow you down, and like, hey, it's okay to breathe today. It's okay to slow down, you know? But at the same time, that's where you're like, hey, we've been sitting down a long time. It's time to get up and do something, you know? And of course, I don't mean literally sitting down. I just mean our break, right? But anyhow, that's where you and I do play off each other's strengths and weaknesses, where I do tend to slow down and enjoy the little things and laugh a little bit more. We vibe off of each other on that one, and we, take the lead when we see is necessary with each other, respectfully.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. And I would say there are some seasons where you have tended to try to take the wheel and tell me what you think is best with good intentions behind it, but it comes across wrong because I'm big on love languages. Like I'm better with your words than I am your drilling. So, or your whatever, your listening ear, your comfort, your words of affirmation, whatever the case may be for that situation. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, taking that and taking each and every day as a lesson, right? Because not every day is going to be perfect. There's going to be some days that one of us might not be feeling it while the other is. And because of that attitude or the vibe, you know, you go down a rabbit hole and arguments or disagreements happen. Yeah. But learning how to take those small lessons, right, and extract them from each experience, and then take a moment, take the time to actually reflect on it, right? I think a lot of us, United States culture is just like go, 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 right? Yeah. That many people don't take the time to just sit back and reflect. And I think that our reflection, well, it's sacred. You know, it's a time that we can actually really think about all of these outputs that we've scattered out, right? All the energy and excitement and time invested into people and relationships has been cast out. But how can we just take a step back and, you know, sit in silence and just reflect, right? That's why my mornings are so important to me, is because it gives me time to really step back and look introspectively on, you know, what am I learning through this season, right? And where do I need to strip parts of myself away, right? Like pruning a tree, taking those parts that are not serving us as a greater whole, and then shield myself with the things that are going to help to build us up and edify that relationship.
Yeah, so absolutely. I feel like taking time to step back is 100% needed. Kind of like bouncing back to the whole, like, I'm more of the, hey, I think it's time we take a break, or hey, our family needs this, or hey, you know, just kind of redirecting our attention for whatever moment we're in is highly important. Like, for instance, the children, we talked that we have 4 children. They're like the business. They are a constant need every single day. And so my work day looks a lot different from your work day. Everyone's like, what's an average day like? There is no average day. Every single day looks a little different. And even though I may plan out my day and say this and this and this is going to happen, well, if I get a call, guess what? I got to go. Whether that's from a client or a child or a school or whatever the case may be. So you always got to make sure that you're able to pivot in this, you know, in my role at least. In your role sometimes, you know, just in our specific situation, I'm usually the one that, you know, just drops everything and goes, depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing. Sometimes that's not the case and you have to, but you know, it's the whole give and take in our relationship, and we understand, like, hey, this may need to be put off an hour or till this afternoon or maybe even tomorrow, and making sure that we're able to pivot off of that without letting it get the best of us because we had to stop what we were doing, right?
For sure.
The children are always going to come first, and they always have. We also find ways to integrate them in our business. Like, for instance, they help me on my side, and I find ways to, like, make it fun for them. And sometimes they think it's funny with all your cameras and your TikToks and your videos. And then sometimes they're a little aggravated with it all the time in their face. So it all, you know, it just depends. But yeah, definitely taking time to reflect on where we've come, what we're doing, the vision we have for our family and ourselves and our business. Yeah.
That's good. So let's talk a little bit about what does it look like separating work and family, work and life? Is that even a thing?
It is, and it's not all at the same time. Like I spoke just a minute ago, there's times where I have to have my children help me and make it fun. Like, for instance, we're getting ready for Easter and Easter pop buys and the neighborhood canvassing and things of that nature.
What's a pop buy, real quick?
So that's where I add value, and I love doing them. So what they are little Circes that I take to current and past clients for the given season. For instance, this is Easter, so I'm creating little Easter baskets for my clients and their children. And I just drop it off to their house and say simply, Happy Easter, I'm thinking about you, happy holiday.
Investing in people and relationships.
Exactly, right. And then neighborhood canvassing looks like you, for instance, with Easter, it's you've been egged, and it's this giant Easter egg that's got candy and, you know, whatever things in it, little knickknacks, and a business card that states, you know, hey, I'm your neighborhood realtor. Love to be able to assist you with any real estate needs you may have. But that's what that looks like. And so with that, I get the kids involved with helping me do that. And they love it. They like, sometimes if they don't love it so much, depending on the activity we're doing, I might have to throw a few dollars at them.
Yeah.
But money motivates everyone, right? But anyways, no, they come in real helpful. So, that's a time where I can't sometimes separate business and work. There's times where it can't happen. Like, for instance, we were at the urgent care last night and I'm writing a contract. I'm taking care of my children, but I'm working. And the children understand that.
in the waiting room.
In the doctor's office, correct. They're taking temperatures over my head because it won't detach from the wall, and I'm typing up a contract. That's what it looked like last night. Whereas there's times where I'm like, my daughter, they constantly cross my fingers. She hasn't this year, but she's constantly breaking a leg or a limb or something. That is an emergency. I can't have any focus except for her, so I have to drop what I'm doing. So it depends on the season and the circumstance. But there are times definitely where we do take time and just reflect as a family and put phones down and computers and say, hey, our family, our children, our child need us. Like, for instance, Mackenzie came to me, and she's our 12-year-old daughter. And she was like, Mama, I really miss you. I need you. And I dropped everything we were doing, set aside an hour, and we went to dinner last night. So it's just taking time to realize the need in the moment.
So here's another question that we do get asked a lot, right? And that would be for somebody that's looking to step into a business with their spouse, whether it be real estate, entrepreneurship, or whatever industry that is, what's the best advice that we would give to them?
For sure. Yeah.
I'll let you lead with that.
So we could write a book on this. That's how long we could go. And not because we know it all, but because we've learned from experience. Like I stated earlier, we went from wanting to like not even be around each other because our ideas were so abstract and far from each other, and the start did not go well. To now we're getting in a rhythm, and we're, things are starting to run smoothly, over 3 years later.
Yeah.
But I would say on my end, communication is 100% key, because expectations are very different on both ends.
Yeah.
So I think clear communication on where you're going and making sure that the same goal is in mind for both of you is 100% important. Also making sure that you're respecting each other's ideas and thoughts and actions and whatever the case may be. Just in general, respecting each other is huge as well, because stepping on each other's toes is a real thing.
Yeah.
So
and we still do it.
Yeah, we still do it. But we've gotten better at coming back off of it. Like, hey, my bad. And learning how to admit fault and apologize as well. Yeah. I'm getting better. You're a lot better at that than I am. But yeah, like that's my two big pieces is communication, respect, and learning when to apologize.
Yeah. And just setting clear boundaries, right?
Sure.
So taking what you said and then really sitting down, like if this is a new venture and you're considering stepping into it, or maybe if you're already in the trenches, how do we take this and map it out, right? Like setting intentions. Just think about this, right? People have disputes every day, which is why we have contracts in real estate, right? Because one person could say one thing and the receiving party could have taken it or perceived it as a totally different thing, right? So sitting down, taking the time to really collaborate and map out your goals. What do you want to accomplish, in this partnership, right? Because it really is a partnership. Marriage is a partnership, right? What do you want to accomplish? What roles do you feel you fit in best, and how do we get there?
Right.
So really just being intentional with identifying what that looks like before stepping into that treadmill, right? Trucking ahead, and you just hit each other head on.
Right.
You know, so being very clear with your vision and talking about what that looks like.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I mean, just respecting each other's time goes on respect. And then also when we were talking back about, you know, you're a morning person and respecting your mornings and making sure that you have time for yourself and I am making time for myself, because I have a habit of getting so caught up in taking care of the kids or you or work or whatever, fill in the blank for that moment, that sometimes Lisa will take back burner. So a season I'm learning that I got to do that as well, but you know, respecting that part also. And I would just say making sure that, so you and I do a lot of personality reflecting. Like, for instance, you constantly are like, I am no good at, and it drives me crazy to do XYZ or whatever, right? And I'm constantly like, well, this is driving me crazy. I am so overwhelmed, or my anxiety is so high doing this. And so, and typically it's the opposite of the other person, and playing off of each other's strengths and weaknesses and making sure that you know the personality of your other one and that you're going to work well off of that. And if not, how are you going to pivot from that? Is someone else going to, like, for instance, I can do your transaction coordination, but I don't want to. I don't particularly love it.
Right.
So how do we pivot off of that? Well, we hire someone and then I train them to do it. So making sure that your personality is going to click well in a working environment, and how you're going to handle it when it doesn't.
Exercising those strengths.
Exactly.
Right. And in this case, right, identifying the gaps, right? What is a place where the business is lacking, or what is a place that my spouse needs a little bit of extra support?
Right.
How can I step in and fulfill that role?
Right.
It might be temporary, right? It might not.
Right.
But how do I merge this gap, right? Seeing the gaps that your spouse might not see, or coming together and saying, look, I need help in this area. Right. And then once you identify the gap, depending on whose personality or whatever is most suitable, how do we fill this, right? How can I train and equip someone else to step into this where they have the tools that they need, right? Sure. And if you're constantly focusing on those gaps, right, eventually that leaky bucket that we talk about is going to be able to fill up, right? For sure. And that's where opportunities present themselves, right? And you can really start building momentum.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So let's wrap it up with this. What does our 10-year plan look like, or what does the future look like? That's a tough question.
It is a tough question, because we have children that'll be out of the house in 4 years, and we have children that'll be out of the house in 18 years. So this is a question where it's going to be, we have a plan, but pivoting in the moments we need to. I think that our 10 years is, obviously we both see ourselves on the lake. We want our family to be thriving in every sense of the word, and our businesses. And I think we both have the same end goal in that, and making sure that we're helping each other get to where each other needs to be, whether it's together as husband and wife, personally or professionally as individuals. And I think that just about sums it up.
I would say so. I'm more strategic when it comes down to it. Like, you know, where are we going as far as legacy, right? Yeah. What's the legacy and the story that I want to tell through our lives, right?
For sure, yeah.
Or that I'll let God tell through our lives, right? Yeah. Being a vessel, how can we create the largest impact, which it starts in our family. And that's kind of where we balance, where I'm constantly up here in the clouds, you know, how can I have a massive impact on the world? Lisa's like, well, hey, come down. It starts with your family.
It starts with these 4 children right here.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's who you're leaving behind.
Yes, 100%.
And so when we can have the biggest impact on them, they can be your worldly impact.
Yes. And it's where those two spectrums can collaborate and meet in the middle.
Absolutely. That
it transforms into a completely new animal, right? New machine, and you can really take off. So how do you bring your family with you, where you can equip them and give them the knowledge, right? Pass on the books, experiences, and help them learn to find their self, right? To find their purpose, and encourage them to constantly seek that self-development and growth.
So quickly off of this, now that you've just reminded me. So the devotion this morning, Pastor Allen's message yesterday, and a couple other devotions over the weekend that we've been reading have all pointed to one thing: time. Learning how to, there isn't really time blocking, it's time managing, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, like we talked about, making sure that our children know that they are priority, making sure that we are involving our children as much as possible into what we're doing in a positive way, but also making them know that we can disconnect and connect with them.
Yes.
And I think that's what it boils down to: slowing down, taking time to enjoy the little moments, for one day they become the big ones.
That's huge. That's huge. Hold on to that.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's easy to constantly be thinking about where you want to be, right? Projecting into the future. But so many of us are either so tied up in the past, where we're allowing our past to just destroy us and eat us away, and we're constantly just going through this repetitive motion of the hurt that we feel because of our past, right? And then there's the other spectrum, which is like the forward thinkers, the visionaries, people like myself. We're constantly building something towards a greater tomorrow, right? Both of them have their benefits. I don't see as much benefit of looking to the past, except you extract the lessons, you get better from it, right? The past is our greatest teacher. Living in the future, you're constantly projecting forward, so you're putting plans in place on how you want to build that legacy, right? But if we focus on each of those spectrums too much, we miss the current moment, right?
Absolutely.
The present.
Yeah.
And the gift of the present is probably one of the greatest gifts that we have, right, as human beings. So learning how to be fully present. That's a big, big thing for me, like in this season, which is where meditation has come in, where I can just quiet my mind, sit back and just be still, right? And just think about, wow, look at everything around me. Look at all of the amazing people that God's entrusted me with, right? So how can I be present? How can I be here so that they feel important, right? So they know that I'm committing my best self, my time and my energy to spend time together, right?
I think leaving the legacy is a lot like, I want our life to look a lot like, I will say one thing I took away from that memorial service yesterday was, even though tragically his life was cut too short, he lived such a big life in such a short time and impacted so many people, and most importantly, his family. And even though they're going to need a lot of love and support in the days to come, he prepared and equipped them to be okay. And the impact he had on his family first, and then everything spread from that, was massive. Yeah. There was over 300 people there yesterday, and that was his second service. I mean, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, at the end of our lives, that's what it looks like. Legacy. And that's what it is. He focused on starting at home because he knew that's where it was. And God said, well done, my good and faithful servant. Welcome home.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So I guess the big question as we're ending this podcast, right, is directed back towards the viewers. Mm-hmm. And that really comes down to, what story and what legacy do you want to leave, right?
Absolutely.
When you get to that very last day, to your deathbed, whether you're expecting it or not, right? If it just, your life gets swept out from under you, what memories do you want people to have, right? What impact would you have want to make on others' lives?
Right.
And when you can truthfully answer that question inside yourself, start now, right? And start investing in things that truly matter. Because at the end of the day, nothing else matters.
Putting yourself aside and thinking of others in a business relationship, as far as a partnership in marriage as well. Making sure that you're not going in this with what can they do for me, but more so what can I do for them.
Yeah. Yep. We can all work to build a living and build wealth and build this legacy, right? But if we're not focused on the right things, we're going to miss the boat.
For sure.
So think about what's important to you. Make sure that's in the forefront of your mind every single day when you wake up. And if nothing else gets done in that day, make sure that you're focusing on the things that truly matter.
Absolutely.
Hope you guys got some value out of it. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications if you're on YouTube and Facebook. We would love any interactions. Tell us where you viewed it from and shoot us some messages what your biggest takeaway was from this video. Till next time, we're out.